Mary, I saw the banker today, and all I got was reasons why banks can't make small loans.
Well, what are we going to do, John? You must have money to meet those overdue grocery and doctor bills.
I don't know, dear, but we'll find some way.
You can roughly locate any community in the world, somewhere along a scale running all the way from democracy to despotism. What sort of community do you live in? This man makes it his job to study these things.
Well, for one thing, avoid the comfortable idea that the mere form of government can of itself safeguard a nation.
In order to have a proper appreciation of the American economic system, we must examine the distribution of the great wealth produced through the operation of American capitalism.
Communities which concentrate decision-making in a few hands rate low on a power scale.
I say, begging your pardon, sir, are you a capitalist?
What'd you say? Is the distribution widespread, or is the wealth of America concentrated in the hands of a few? To see how this wealth was distributed, let's look at this graph.
A community rates low on an information scale when the press, radio, and other channels of communication are controlled by only a few people. If this condition exists over the nation as a whole, despotism stands a good chance.
How is this income distributed among these families?
Professor Gaines, aren't the majority of our families in the lower income brackets?
You may be wondering, who got all this money?
I would say it would be hundreds of billions.
Actually, it's up in the trillions. In other words,
what sort of community do you live in? Where would you place it on a democracy-despotism scale?
Into a Walmart store, knocked shoppers to the ground near Grand Rapids, Michigan at 5 in the morning. Despite several people falling to the ground, shoppers charged ahead, fixated on doorbuster deals.
On your mark, get set, go!
Okay, Tino, you've given them a great start. What shoppers these guys are. Look at them go!
It's Friday, Friday, gotta get down.
They're taking the supermarket by storm.
Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
They're loading up on those big ticket items.
Friday, getting down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward
the crowd's eating this up.
The weekend. Yesterday was Thursday, today, yeah, it's Friday, Friday. We so excited.
Whoa, Angelo, take it easy, buddy.
Have a ball today. Partying. Fun. Looking forward to the weekend.
In a few seconds, we'll find out which team has the highest total, and that team, of course, wins the chance to go for up to, yes, $5,000 in cash or prizes. So stick around.
L'action de la marchandise s'est d'abord exercée d'une manière occulte sur l'économie, qui elle-même, en tant que base matérielle de la vie sociale, restait inaperçue et incomprise, comme le familier qui n'est pas pour autant connu. Le spectacle est le mauvais rêve de la société moderne enchaînée, qui n'exprime finalement que son désir de dormir. Le spectacle est le gardien de ce sommeil.
Good evening. This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future.
The world economic situation is deteriorating more rapidly than we had thought.
We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
He has no idea how bad it is out there. He has no idea. He has no idea.
Last night, demonstrators burned American currency in front of the White House.
Here, folks run around calling this class warfare.
Just 1% of this country owns half our country's wealth.
This is not class warfare.
How many yachts can you water ski behind? How much is enough?
The decline in the housing market set off a domino effect across our economy. Borrowers defaulted on their mortgages, and the gears of the American financial system began grinding to a halt.
In 6 months, you'll see grass right over Rodeo Drive and Michigan Boulevard and Fifth Avenue.
Despite corrections in the marketplace and instances of abuse, democratic capitalism is the best system ever devised.
He's nuts! They're nuts! They know nothing!
You can't wipe out the hand of people. We're essential and key to continual operation and continual smooth functioning of a highly industrialized, highly complicated machine. And we can use that power, if we ever get ourselves organized long enough, to destroy that machine or to take it over.
It is the capitalist system that's on its way out of history. And it's a couple of reasons for that. Capitalism rests upon utilizing labor. It utilizes labor in the production of things. Its mode of accumulation, the way it works, is wage labor for money, money for things. Capitalism can work and maintain itself to a degree as long as the system is expanding. Even as it goes through crisis, it still expands. It has reached the limit of its expansion, and what's bringing a crisis is a new technology regime, new methods of production that are fundamentally laborless. When the Industrial Revolution began, it would take another, 100, 120, 30, 40 years to hit the second phase of the Industrial Revolution, which is roughly called Fordism. That's 150 years later. If we use as a benchmark the semiconductor as a benchmark, because the revolution begins in the late 30s, and then into the 40s with the development of vacuum tube computers. But as a benchmark, let's use the semiconductor. Baby, it's only in its infancy. When something fundamental change in the means of production, the technology of a society, that society has to change. Nobody can stop that. Today we're experiencing the social consequences of 30, 40 years of subtle changes in the means of production. That is why you can't know how it was. You simply can't know it because you're a product of different circumstances. And that's why I'm glad you asked, and that's why I love you.
The break came one day in December. Workers at the Fisher Body Plant punched in as usual. An ordinary day. Then something happened. Or rather, nothing happened. Nothing moved. The workers had sat down. They would not work, and they would stay in the factory until General Motors signed a contract with their union.
The workers were startled to discover that they had actually stopped production. As the sit-down continued in Flint, Walter Reuther began calling support strikes in Oakland, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Kansas City, Missouri, Cleveland, Ohio, and Anderson, Indiana. Strikes paralyzed the General Motors operations nationwide. In Detroit, all 9 Chrysler factories sat down, and Chrysler signed within a month. The second of the big auto companies had recognized the union. In 1 year's time, the membership of the UAW had grown to 250,000 strong, and a local business weekly declared, "The revolution is here."
Once we were weak, but now we stand tall. Millions of citizens heeding the call, demanding our freedom, the birthright of all. The Arab Spring turns to the American fall. We're the 99, and we'll never forgive. We'll never forget how you've made us live. Expect us at your door. Prepare to defend. The reign of the moneyed and privileged now ends.
Every day of the year, the bull rides the people. Today, the people ride the bull.
What this is the break from marching and chanting. We've been marching and chanting since the 60s. It's gotten us nowhere.
This is an opportunity maybe for a new style, for a new shift in power and the way that people relate to each other. And, you know, like I say, I think we're fucked either way, but it's worth a shot.
You could see this as like a micro-society.
It's a model for a new society. It's not a protest in the sense of being against something. It's a way to formulate something new.
Il faut radicaliser notre pratique, les occupations d'usine.
Mais c'est pas mal, mais c'est mieux avec séquestration.
Directeur et cadre dans les placards, d'accord. Mais tout ceci ne fait pas avancer. Il nous faut des qualitatifs.
Et un journal. Si on occupait un journal.
Tu veux dire qu'on le sortirait nous-mêmes pour faire connaître notre force?
Il y a aussi la radio, la télévision et tous les centres de communication. Comment peut-on les prendre?
El Canal 9, el canal de los oaxaqueños, es una mentira. ¿Y por qué es una mentira? Porque a través de este canal jamás se ha escuchado la voz y la verdad del pueblo.
En mayo del 2006, esos 70,000 maestros, representados por la sección 22, se pusieron en huelga, ocupando la ciudad capital de Oaxaca con un campamento conocido como Plantón. Esta fue la primera vez en 25 años que los maestros hicieron una huelga con su propia estación de radio, Radio Plantón.
Se le da un comunicado muy importante. En estos momentos se encuentra ya tomada las instalaciones del Canal 9, el canal del gobierno del estado, el canal de Ulises Ruiz. Esta toma fue completamente pacífica, si no me equivoco.
Claro que sí, fue muy pacífica. Las mujeres solo entraron aquí al canal, no golpearon a nadie, son puras mujeres.
Llegamos aquí al interior y la que sale primero es la directora. Y le dijimos que queríamos que nos diera un espacio. Dice, es que no se va a poder, no se va a poder.
O sea, que todas las mujeres queríamos nada más un tiempo, una hora, y nosotros nos retirábamos, porque lo que queríamos era difundir un poquito de toda la verdad que existe, de tanta verdad que existe.
A raíz de la programación que pasaba en el Canal 9, cuando ya las compañeras tomaron los micrófonos, entonces yo también pude darme cuenta, con tanta tarugada yo me atontaba viendo novelas, me atontaba viendo programas que no valían la pena.
Este es un derecho a la información, un derecho a la expresión libre, y nosotros estamos pidiendo que se nos respete ese derecho.
We set up Global Revolution TV, a media defense force, which is not necessarily just connections with your local journalists, but ability to put out super high quality media of your insurrection. We're going to be sending in a tactical media kit, which will consist of laptops, cameras, and broadcast equipment. By building efficient communications tools and giving people ability to edit the channel from anywhere in the world, we're creating basically a global TV network.
Thanks, Vlad.
I saw you're here last, alive as you and me, as you and me. Said I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. But Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I says he.
weekend, a few troublemakers turned a peaceful protest against Wall Street greed into a violent burst of chaos. The troublemakers carried pepper spray and guns and were wearing badges.
We are rocking and rolling into history, baby. Yes.
Protesters rallied towards the Brooklyn Bridge. When they got on the Brooklyn Bridge, the police showed up and basically cornered off both sides of the Brooklyn Bridge and started to move in on the protesters to make arrests for blocking traffic and disorderly conduct.
This is a peaceful march! This is a peaceful march! Let them go! Let them go! Let them go! Let them go! Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Then stop being assholes!
They are just openly embracing their demonic aspect.
Capitalists. If you think that you can play footsies with these people, you're wrong. They will come for you and drag you into the streets and kill you.
Let me now take that and for a brief moment describe Occupy Wall Street.
Pepper spray, pepper spray. That just burns your eyes, right?
We kept asking the simple question, why are you here?
The failure of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
They're attacking anything and everything. That's right. And
Pepper spray.
There's this vacuum of leadership or ideology or anything that they're out there for.
Pepper spray.
Don't blame Wall Street. Don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself.
None of these kids that occupy Wall Street are coming from places like Yale.
Effete, elite, university, fancy pants.
Pepper spray.
They're angry about everything. There's this just visceral hatred of Fox News.
They're brainless. They're brainwashed.
These people are highly scripted.
People defecating on police cars.
And they know how to agitate.
You can tell it is just on the edge of violence.
These guys are worse than Robespierre from the French Revolution.
The more blood there is, the more these people are sated.
Hilarity and revulsion.
Pepper spray.
It's a food product, essentially. It's difficult to escape noticing that the Occupy movement is officially backed by the American Nazi Party, the American Communist Party, the Workers' World Party, the Democratic Party, and the President of the United States of America.
I am glad to be at Disney World.
Pepper spray.
The Magic Kingdom.
Dozens and dozens of complaints,
rapes and murders and all sorts of disgusting activity taking place.
Would you prefer that your daughter demonstrate with the Tea Party people or with the occupiers? You make the call remembering the hypodermic needles.
Socialists, communists, and anarchists.
There was a rat problem.
Anti-Semitic graffiti.
A possible ringworm outbreak.
Gotta get them out of here.
Denver police say they were forced to open fire. They ended up making 20 arrests on Saturday night.
And that's what they're trying to do, is to poke and prod the police in order to have a Kent State moment.
The damage is done and repairs are not cheap.
That's right, Jeff. $86,000 is a lot of money.
Once the chaos died down, we kept asking the simple question, why are you here? What's your message? This is what the organizer of this entire event told us.
Pepper spray. That just burns your eyes, right?
Do not arouse the wrath of the great and powerful Oz. I said come back tomorrow. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Your latest book is about debt, the history of debt, and you're also known for Occupy Wall Street. What does Occupy Uprising have to do with debt?
Everything. Actually, I was kind of astounded because I thought, here I am doing this book, but I'm going to try to keep it apart from the activist stuff, because I don't want to get it mixed up. And everywhere I went, people, talking about debt, people were like, can you start a movement about this? Maybe student loans. Maybe. My feeling is that capitalism has fundamentally shifted from something which used to have some relation to manufacturing and making and selling things to basically an extractive system where capitalists receive the right to make up money from the government. What this has to do with capitalism as classically defined, I have no idea why we're even really calling it that. It's more a system, almost feudal appropriation. We were just startled when, we got to Holt Park. And the first day, I was we only have a couple hundred people here. It just grew and it grew, and we the time we went to the park, there was about 2,000. And suddenly it was like, wow, we kept it. Revolutionary movements never swell like that in the country that's actually, you know, the center of global capitalism.
You think this is a global uprising?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't start here, it passed through here, but when, you know, it's almost as if when the fuse hit America, that's when it blew up, because it was impossible to disguise that something global was really happening.
And last question, how does it feel to be the leader of the Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah, I would say, it's, you know, actually it's not a bad thing to be the leader, as long as, like, we have a couple million more.
The city's powerful unions are set to join the Occupy Wall Street demonstration, now entering its 20th day. Their march to City Hall will be bolstered by the walkout of hundreds, potentially thousands of students at major public universities in New York City, where tuition rates are on the rise.
We're standing in the march from the Union Rally to the Occupy Wall Street encampment, where somewhere along Broadway, thousands, tens of thousands of people are marching.
They said they needed to rescue Wall Street and the big three automakers to stimulate the economy. And that meant jobs. 3 years later, there's still no jobs.
Excuse me, Vanessa, how does it feel to be walking? Vanessa?
Yes?
How does it feel to be walking?
I do wish someone would carry me, but it's okay.
What do you think about their sign?
I don't like to think about it.
I think this is it. The rev has started, man. Rev it up. Rev, rev, rev.
Hey, we're in the middle of a revolution, because I see the face of things to come.
I think we got caught up in the traffic somehow. I don't know what happened, but our ride was inconvenienced and stuck at the traffic light with all of these people, so we had to end up walking with them. We're going to go ask some people what their sign means, actually.
This, we are learning.
Our sign says, fuck plastic, which refers to a lot of different stuff. Plastic people, plastic credit cards, and just general excess.
They seem to be cheering about something. I can't quite figure it out.
I'm not used to running.
In order for us to succeed, this cannot end. This cannot end. With this march. With this march. I am starting to feel liberated. I like the people. This is so much better than our stuffy dance parties. Let loose It is too much for her. She is far too stained.
Eros effect refers to these moments when thousands or even millions of people surge into the streets and refuse to leave to return to their everyday lives until significant shifts are made in the social order. These moments accomplish in days what history takes years and even decades to accomplish. I first developed the concept of the Eros effect doing research about the movements of 1968, and I saw how in every country where there were movements, these movements were related to each other, much more than they were related to specific national conditions. In these moments of the Eros effect, the popular reality is reconstructed by thousands of people who changed their everyday lives. Instead of values like patriotism, hierarchy, or competition being the dominant values, people construct new values of solidarity, of humanity, of love for each other. Relations among human beings have a very different quality and a different feel to them. These moments of the Eros effect indicate that ordinary people acting together by the millions have a far greater intelligence than the elites that run society.
Mic check! Mic check! Welcome to Occupy Providence! Welcome to Occupy Providence!
So it is so beautiful to see so many folks turning out to join together to declare City Hall occupied territory.
Occupy protests are reported in more than 100 cities from coast to coast.
Occupy the Hood is a movement that was born out of Occupy Wall Street in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street. It's a movement to try to encourage and motivate more people of color to get involved in this movement.
Calls for economic equality also spread this weekend to Mobile, Alabama.
Corporate greed is everywhere. It's, we're losing our middle class.
The streets of Indianapolis.
I want to get out that the American people had better wake up, or we'll lose our whole democracy.
Signs and tents are going up in a new camp in the Columbia Gorge town of Mosier between Hood River and the Dalles.
Mosier is so small that the Occupy Portland camp is likely larger than the entire population of this town. They say that Mosier represents small-town America and how big corporations and politicians have ignored the needs of people no matter where they live.
As the world watches us occupy Wall Street, let's not forget the history of occupation on which this street was built. In 1685, the Dutch West India Company enslaved African peoples after failing to effectively enslave American Indians to construct a wall, Wall Street, that barricaded the land white men had seized from native peoples. The Dutch called their colony New Amsterdam and needed to secure it from the indigenous who were fighting to take back land they had sustained for thousands of years.
Change comes with time, it's not an action, it's a process. It's more than just marching, it's what you do after the protest. It's giving back to the hood, that makes you conscious. What makes an activist activate when they graduate with a bachelor's or a master's from the masters with the masses screaming master. Master of all the answers when they've mastered it. We can try to shape the world if we can try to change how we imagine it. It's okay to make mistakes, but if freedom's what they say, we don't have time to waste.
The Occupy Wall Street movement spread to at least 85 cities on 6 continents today.
Occupy Taipei, Seoul, Hong Kong.
We're here on day 3. We've got a kitchen, we've got our own medical station, we've got information and safety station. I mean, we came together and we organized all of this.
Welcome to the library. This is a community space where people can come to learn, to share, to connect. We offer events, as you can see here. There's a whole list of events. They happen every half an hour.
So this is the kitchen and sanitation station. Also, we're the recycling and waste area as well. We cooked a bunch of grits and oatmeal, and we brought it by bicycle. We had 4 pots. We also had some scrambled tofu.
Thank you.
So what's happening is Food Not Bombs is cooking food. There's individuals who are tapping into our resources of food that's been donated to us and taking it back to their own home, bringing it back here, warm cooked meals, ready for the masses.
Portland has probably the largest turnout so far that I've seen across the country, is what I've read in the newspapers.
We have a young daughter and we want her to be aware of young people standing up for what they believe
believe in, just as we saw on TV in Egypt.
I think it's really cool that people are getting together for what they actually believe in, not just in Portland, but also like in Seattle and other places.
I think they have purposefully not defined specific demands, but they're more stating their grievances. Some of the amazing positive things I'm seeing coming out of it is the practice of democracy. I just came from the general meeting, and although it can seem like it's working slowly because they let everybody be heard, they do let everybody be heard.
It is going to send a message to the people in government that, you know, get off their butts, start talking to each other, and quit this logjam of political gamemanship.
I had coffee.
So what's today's secret word, Cocky?
Today's secret word is
anarchism, a social philosophy which aims at the emancipation, economic, social, political, and spiritual of the human race.
Who is your lord?
We don't have a lord.
What? I told you, we're an anarcho-syndicalist commune.
For a lot of people, working in affinity groups is an important part of building a non-hierarchical movement. So it means that you can work in a big group but without leaders. People feel more empowered if they're working in a group rather than working on their own or working as part of a huge group of 100 people or 1,000 people where it's possible to get a little lost.
Affinity group is a very kind of broad term for people working together for a common goal and with common outlines of the way that they're going to act. An affinity group can be you're a bunch of 5 friends and you work together and you organize together. An affinity group can be a group of people who you just met and have decided to go into an action with the same intention and the same ground rules.
First of all, the Black Bloc is a tactic. Like any other tactic, it cannot be judged in itself, but can only be judged as part of a spectrum of a much broader movement. And we can't romanticize or generalize either way, right? So tactics can be effective, they can be ineffective, but inherently they're neither. Secondly, there's a dichotomy that has been created between so-called community day-to-day organizing and insurrectionary actions. Because it's all been reduced to whether window smashing is effective or not. And I think that as a starting point is fundamentally problematic. The Black Bloc has various utilities, both defensive and offensive, including de-arresting comrades and the very basic principle of no comrade left behind. We're asking the wrong side the question about violence. If we're going to talk about violence, we need to be talking about the military, we need to be talking about the police, we need to be talking about the state.
Shut up! Will you shut up? Ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system.
The only way that you keep people involved in a movement like this is you have a process in which everyone's voice can be heard. When you want to show support to something that you're hearing, you twinkle.
This, which is the point of process, when someone is getting off topic.
I disagree.
Clarifying question.
This is the block.
Every decision has been made through our process of general assemblies and through our process of working.
And that's the beauty of direct democracy.
The process is meant. The process is meant. So you can be empowered. So you can be empowered. To go to your own communities. To go to your own communities. And hold general assemblies. And hold general assemblies. To talk about. The issues.
All the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet.
Order, who does he think he is?
I am your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
I think direct action is a way to reclaim your life. So, on the one hand, it's about directly intervening where something's going wrong, or to do something right. So that could be shutting down a company which is polluting, or it could be directly providing food or shelter through squatting or food not bombs kind of actions. but it's also about reclaiming your life a bit, saying we're not going to wait for politicians, we're not going to wait for leaders, we're not going to wait for the establishment to do things, we're going to do it ourselves.
Direct action happens because there is a need for it. Direct action happens because people are fighting back, and we're not waiting for millions of people to stand beside us for the revolution to happen.
Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?
As the chaos subsided, this new revolutionary society began to function. Much of the Catalan economy was now being run by the workers themselves. In Barcelona, trams and cinemas, factories, department stores and even greyhound tracks were run by their own employees. Barter, not purchasing, kept Barcelona fed for the first weeks of the Civil War. In some places, money itself, seen by anarchists as inherently evil, was abolished.
The California National Guard has been ordered into active service by our governor for the purpose of maintaining law and order in San Francisco and protecting life and property. This we propose to do at any cost.
For those of you guys who do not know, the police came to Occupy Oakland at 4:30 in the morning. The police tear gassed the front of Occupy Oakland, the 14th and Broadway side. They flashbanged the media tent and stopped the live stream. At that point, the police moved in and started rubber bulleting people, shooting rubber bullets indiscriminately.
Savages. I know, brother. I know they savages. They fucking savages. What happened? What happened?
You got hit.
He got shot. What's your name? What's your name?
We have the vote count. There are 1,484 approvals. We have 96.9% approval. It passes. Mic check.
Part of the Oakland General Strike, we will march on the Port of Oakland and shut it down. We will converge at 5 p.m. at 14th and Broadway and march to the port to shut it down before the 7 p.m. night shift.
Yo, we the 99%. We here, we arrived, and we came to represent. We the 99%. We here, we arrived, and we came to represent. For the people, for the teachers, for the students. If we knew that just 1% of these dudes own 2/3 of the U.S. We are the 99, we are the 91st. If I say they burn cars, London they set it off. In Santiago they march. Well, over here it's time we start building a mass consensus. Your daddy lost his pension. Your daughter's school need fixing. Your brother's back in prison. The lesson here ain't kumbaya. Like overnight the change gon' come. Nah, but what they got, we
got 99, they got one problem, and it's us. If we wake up from that slumber, then that number make more sense to us all. Some small group of bankers whose wealth go back ages, stay trying to enslave us, divide and contain us, make us strangers, more anger, pit us against our neighbors. But in the face of hatred, we showing love can change things. The 99%. We here, we arrived, and we came to represent. We the 99%.
Occupy Oakland, we are Occupy Oakland.
Today we have our strike, so we started bringing out rugs and tables and chairs, and we have pianos, and we set up our open university. So we have a chalkboard and we have a library right behind me.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. A real uprising, a movement like this. You know, there's a lot of people in this country who have a lot to protest, a lot of reason to protest. I wish Abbie Hoffman were here now. He'd love this.
What had begun in March 1968 as a student revolt at Nanterre on the outskirts of Paris, by May had become a nationwide protest against the French political regime. Major factories were closed down by strikes, and in Paris, students occupied the University of the Sorbonne.
For the moment then, calm and even gaiety here with the students back in the university and in complete control of the place. They've even set up their own committees to organise their lectures and what they're going to do next.
In a General Assembly that took place at 4:30 last night, the protesters agreed to reconvene on the UC Davis quad early this afternoon. The Chancellor has ordered officers not to enforce the overnight camping policy. No arrests will be made this evening unless circumstances change dramatically by morning.
After holding a General Assembly at noon, protesters mobilized and occupied Dutton Hall.
Literally, we were like a little group with our arms locked together. People just started showing up, man, and like more and more the cops couldn't hold us off. They took the tents and shit, but like we've been holding down for hours.
Come.
You want to see me, sir?
Ah, Constable Savage. Come in, shut the door.
Yes, sir.
Now then, Savage. I want to talk to you about some charges that you've been bringing lately. I think that perhaps you're being a little overzealous.
Which charges do you mean, then, sir?
Well, for instance, this one.
I'm Dorley Rainey, and my fame stems from a big mistake the Seattle cops made when they pepper sprayed me.
Didn't they teach you anything at training school?
I have not been read my rights. I have not been told why I'm being detained.
And we have some more here. And this one.
What the fuck?
Savage, maybe you're not aware of this, but it is not illegal to use a pedestrian crossing.
You say so, sir?
Yes, I do say so, Savage. Some of these cases are just plain stupid. Is this some kind of joke, Savage?
No, sir.
It's officers like you that give the police a bad name. The press love to jump on incidents like this, and the reputation of the force can be permanently tarnished. Your time on duty is dominated by racial hatred and petty personal vendettas. Do you get some kind of perverted gratification from going around stirring up trouble?
Yes, sir.
There's no room for men like you in my force, Savage. Now get out!
Sorry, sir.
Forward behind them!
People or 200 people trying to hold the camp, and to me it would have been impossible. And tonight with probably 5,000 to 10,000 people showing up, everything's possible. It's very exciting.
Seeing people, this influx of spirit and support and just sheer mass. My socks are blown off. This is like one of the most exciting things I've ever been a part of.
In 1932, Washington was under siege. The capital was surrounded by over 10,000 unemployed veterans of World War I from all over the country. The marchers had stayed, camped out in central Washington. Their only assets were the bonus certificates they'd been given after the war, which promised a cash bonus sometime in the future. President Hoover was left to deal with the veterans when the Senate rejected their demands.
It's war, the greatest concentration of fighting troops in Washington since 1865.
I'd never seen anything like it. They systematically went down the line, burned up all the tents and all the possessions of the people there.
The orders of the president must be obeyed, and the roaring flames sound the death knell to the fantastic bonus army. In the shadow of the beautiful dome of the capital of the United States of America.
It's halftime. Both teams are in their locker room discussing what they can do to win this game in the second half. People are out of work and they're hurting. And we're all scared because this isn't a game. I've seen a lot of tough eras, a lot of downturns in my life, times when we didn't understand each other. The fog of division, discord, and blame made it hard to see what lies ahead. We find a way through tough times, and if we can't find a way, then we'll make one. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's gonna hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime America, and our second half's about to begin.
And now, the politicians may not have taken bold action, but tonight Americans are. ABC News has learned that as of today, 1 million American consumers are hurling a lightning bolt warning at the big banks, moving their money out in protest.
It started early this morning at 7 a.m., gathering at Liberty Plaza, and in different affinity groups converged on Wall Street to try different zigzag routes to get to the stock exchange. Were not able to disrupt the opening bell, but they did shut down Wall Street.
Inside the bank, the Portland Central America Solidarity Committee. The Portland Central America Solidarity Committee is shutting down the bank.
Banks got bailed out, guys. Got sold out.
By 3 p.m., there was a massive gathering of students who walked out on strike from colleges and universities from all over the city. The students took the streets all the way down to Foley Square.
All day, all week, occupy Wall Street.
After the demonstration at Foley Square, students, occupiers, union members took to the Brooklyn Bridge.
The police scanner estimate for the crowd on the Brooklyn Bridge was 32,500 people.
Do you get a lot of junk mail? I do. Inside every one of these credit card offers is one of these. It's a business reply mail envelope. They only pay postage on the envelopes that get mailed back. Now the banks are assuming that we'll use these envelopes to send in our credit card applications, but we don't want more credit cards, do we? We certainly don't want them from the big banks that caused the financial crisis. Just take all the materials that came in the envelope, put them in there. Take the envelope itself, put that in there. And then any other junk mail you got that day that you think might be interesting to them. Like I got this baby products catalog, I'll put that in there. I mean, bankers have babies. Being immoral doesn't mean you're infertile. The other thing that I do is I send them a note. This one says, "Hello, big bank clerk. Please join a union. If you're willing to put a little bit of money into it," and I do mean a little bit, would be a wood shim. Put the shim in the envelope, and suddenly the envelope becomes really heavy, and more importantly, a rigid mail piece costs more in postage to mail. If they start getting hundreds and thousands of weird responses to their credit card applications, well, they're going to have meetings. Every hour banks spend reacting to us, it's an hour banks don't spend foreclosing on our houses. So I think that that's progress.
Empty homes were the target of this latest protest by the Occupy Wall Street movement. In this case, their attention was focused on 4 homes abandoned or foreclosed in an area of New York they say is among the worst hit by the financial crisis. Alfredo Carrasquillo and his family were among the protesters. They've taken up residence in one of the district's vacant properties. The protesters threw a housewarming party to press home their demands for fewer repossessions and more affordable housing.
We took matters into our own hands and claimed back property that was taken away from the community.
Boa tarde. É a direção do Movimento Sem Terra, estamos passando aqui convidando os companheiros.
Olha, a gente somos do Movimento Sem Terra. Aí a gente está convidando o companheiro se interessar, ganhar um pedaço de terra, que nós vamos fazer uma ocupação por aqui. Aí a gente vai explicar a você. A mudança que a gente tem de Movimento Sem Terra para oferecer para vocês é fazendo a ocupação de terra, desapropriando as terras e assentando vocês e vocês produzindo.
O português lá fora fala que nós invadimos, mas nós não invadimos não, né? Nós ocupamos a fazenda, se a fazenda foi improdutiva. O fazendeiro não está fazendo renda nenhuma nela para os trabalhadores para cultivar a terra.
Em outros momentos da história já houveram conflitos, houveram massacres. Teve o massacre da Santa Elmira, que foi um longo processo de ocupação e despejo, ocupação e despejo, ocupação e despejo, em que lá pelo final desse processo as famílias tomaram a decisão de que iam para o confronto. Dada a morosidade da reforma agrária naquele período.
In 1985, when Brazil was fighting for direct elections for president, the MST held its first national congress in Curitiba in the south of Brazil. The movement's motto became, "To occupy is the only solution."
I've been a textile mill worker for 20 years. Today, I am doing more work and getting less pay than I ever did before.
We are asking for a general strike to keep organized labor on the Pacific Coast. We are not only asking for it, but we're going to get it.
Ports are important because it's one place where the 1% amasses their wealth. They are the place where goods and services are exchanged. It's this hub of production and distribution. There's an interesting connection between the local and the international here too, where we're not only fighting for local worker struggles and for the local economy and local workers in general, but also the ports are a hub of international commerce, and we see that multinational corporations have engaged in a global race to the bottom, pitting workers in different countries against each other, engaging in sweatshop activities. The ports are a hub of capitalism, and today we're going to shut it down.
If you're gonna start a revolution, you gotta have coffee. You gotta have coffee. Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! We need volunteers. We need volunteers. To go to T5. To go to T5. To reinforce the line. To reinforce the line. I can remember what my mother used to say. Hey! And if we stick together, then we'll win this fighting time. As long as we don't walk across each other's picket lines.
There's so many interests that come kind of in focus right here at the ports, and so if we all can come out from the Occupy movement all along the coast, that's a major statement of us in solidarity.
Is this doing anything?
They're not.
Well, no, it's pretty much. They've stopped all the trucks from it, so they've closed it down.
Yo, dude, you know what's happening today?
Tell me.
I don't know. I was just wondering. There's like all these people out.
I was on a bike ride with a bunch of my friends, but this is kind of like something really exciting's going on. I saw a lot of Alex signs or something. What?
Is that a name of some dude or something? Or
I don't know. It's the American Legislative Exchange Council. It's essentially a lobby that's paid into by corporations all over the country, and it undermines our democracy.
There's no good faith by the bank. Wells Fargo gave me a false sense of hope. They set me up with a trial modification, but even while I was making those payments, and I made all of them, they had me on a dual-track process and were continuing to foreclose. That's why we are out here today, to shut down the corporations.
Understand all of the major corporate news affiliates, except for independent programming, are involved with the speculation of driving up oil costs.
While McDonald's is making money off of death, we're actually here giving life-giving food and charging nothing for it.
Alex is bad for our health because they control our food supply. They've genetically altered everything from our plants to cloning our animals that we eat, and they don't label it because they pass legislation saying they don't have to.
We understand that the people who are profiting off of these bills, off of these laws, are also the ones that are helping write the legislation, and that needs to come out, but our democracy is not for sale.
Seattle and the WTO. Voices in the street made the whole world know. Well, they shot them with tear gas and locked them up in jail. But at the end of the day, their damn World Trade dogs failed. Now, Dr. King told them in 1965, with Jim Crow around, you know, slavery still alive. But the KKK they came under attack, but President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. So take it to the streets is where we win. We can't vote with our feet, that's where it all begins. Tired feet marching in the dust of San Joaquin. Farm Workers Union, that was the dream. A big great turned it all around. Tired feet marching, knock that big money down. So I'll take you to the streets is where we win. We can't vote with our feet, that's where it all begins. From Selma to Delano and everywhere between, there's a million unknown heroes that share a common dream. They say wait till November, don't rock the boat. But our bodies are our ballots and every step a vote. Yes, our bodies are our ballots and every step a vote. From New York to Oakland, they turned up the heat, put up the barricades and shut down the streets. They put freedom in jail and still called it free. That ain't good enough for you, and that ain't good enough for me. They can't beat us, they can gas us, they can throw us in the can, but you're giving up on freedom if you give it to the man. No, we don't give a damn what cops will condone. The whole U.S. of A is our free speech zone. The whole U.S. of A is our free speech zone. So I'll take you to the streets is where we win. We can't vote with our feet, that's where it all begins. Yeah, take you to the streets
What sort of community do you live in? Where would you place it on a democracy-despotism scale? Today, democracy can ebb away in communities whose citizens allow power to become concentrated in the hands of bosses. The test of despotic power is that it can disregard the will of the people. It rules without the consent of the governed. What happens in a single community is the problem of its own citizens. But it is also the problem of us all, because as communities go, so goes the nation.